When the leading global manufacturer of an industry asks a small cap company for samples of its products created by a completely new and disruptive process, and then reports back commercial grade confirmation of those very same products, you should pay very close attention because that's exactly what just happened with HPQ Silicon, who had the leading global manufacturer of fumed silica confirm that fumed silica created under HPQ's new, cleaner, cheaper, and superior process achieved industry standards. Fumed silica, you may think it doesn't sound sexy, but it's used in everything from food and cosmetics to construction manufacturing. And today's press release, HPQ achieves pilot scale milestone in commercial fumed silica production, set sights on higher value market segment. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Wasn't that long since last time we spoke on this?
Yeah, but it feels like we've all been waiting for this news. And this is awesome. You know, this sounds like we've been waiting for it. Feels like how I've asked you this before. How big is this for the company? How big is this for your shareholders?
Well, it's very big for HPQ Silica Pulveris. It's very big for HPQ, and it will become very big for the shareholders in the sense that when we started this process, okay, we said we made a bold statement, okay, a very bold statement. That bold statement was, we've done this demonstration that we can turn quartz, okay, directly into fumed silica in one step, and we did that at lab scale. What people probably don't realize is to do that in lab scale, it took us 60 tests, okay? And we never produced more than 150 grams per test, but we still managed to make it. Then we had the audacity to say, we're going to do this at scale. And our results were so, how can I say, interesting, intriguing, that we were able to get one of the largest players in the fumed silica industry to sign an LOI to be present during the validation at pilot scale that is the case. And now we finally made it a test number 6, okay? If you remember on the 20th, I was excited about the quantity of material and the speed and all the improvements we have, but now we've also made it commercial grade fumed silica. Still more tweaks to go, but this is test number 6. People have to remember that I did say it could be this test, next test, we're going to be on target. But there's one key point. We set out on this venture to demonstrate that we could turn quartz into fumed silica in one step without using a pyrolysis-based process to make a material that is cleaner, that does not have into hydrogen chloride byproduct. And we've demonstrated we're now into fumed silica. Now we're entering the fine-tuning to make the great commercial material, but we have at least can say that we have replicated at pilot scale the results that we've done at lab scale. That's massive. It might not dawn on people instantly, but it is big.
Around the year 2000, 2002, Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, we got a better way of doing this. And history is now proven them right. Not that you're Netflix today, but in order for people to understand through analogy, can you say today that you're Netflix 2000, 2002, where you can go to the biggest guys in the industry and say, we've got a better way to do this?
We are we are the next flick of fumed silica, that's for sure. And we do have a best way. We have a best way that we've demonstrated and validated by a third party that at lab scale we can do it, and now we've demonstrated that we can do it at pilot scale, which is a 20-fold scaling up process. Okay, those are massive, massive milestones that we've reached, right? And we've hit them all. You know, check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. And so it's like it's advancing, it's moving very, very well forward. So yeah, we are that Netflix, and the beauty of sort of reality of fumed silica industry right now is that there is not just one blockbuster. Okay.
Yeah.
There is about 15 companies of medium different size that have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of capital invested into the traditional fumed silica process manufacturing. And here we come, HPQ Silica Pulveris, with a very simple process where we go from quartz directly to fumed silica. And we're in the process of completely changing and implementing a paradigm shift. Now, often you realize that the paradigm shift has happened after it occurred. Okay. This was for me one of the first big milestones of all the milestones we've reached, an important one. And I think it's time now it's going to be time now for the market, the market participants, either the industry, the other parties that come into play. Think about this. If you own a quartz deposit that has a lot of high quartz material, and your only options to monetize your technology, your material, was basically to try to sell it to somebody, so you were making small profit margin. Now there's an opportunity to go in the full scale of doing fumed silica. You can now compete. The barriers to what's happening, okay, we're demonstrating our process, is completely demolishing the barriers to entry to this industry. Okay? And I don't think it has reached the conclusion of everybody that this is what we have done. That's what we're announcing. That's where we're going. We made those bold statements, okay, and we're delivering on those bold statements. Right? And from them, we've got the process here. We have a material that's commercial. Now our goal is just try to increase the value of it and make it more and more valuable as we enter the next scale.
From the press release, the results were provided directly by a leading global fumed silica manufacturer, we call them the GFSM, with whom HPQ maintains a letter of intent. What does the GFSM validation mean to the global fumed silica market in terms of all the big players? Because it's one thing for you to report your results, it's one thing for maybe a university, but how much further ahead are you because the leader in fumed silica has essentially validated the commercial production of fumed silica in one step?
I think it's going to increase the interest on it, and it's already been there. There's a lot of interest for it. It's mostly been us, because of the way we're developing and scaling up this technology and validating it, okay, that have slowed down the discussion. But we're now reaching a point where we can expand the discussion forum with different groups, to see how we can come up with the best way to commercialize this technology. Now we're entering the phase where we're not stopping. We keep continuing R&D, we keep improving the product, but we're now in the phase we can start to entertain those commercial discussions.
Okay, I want to ask about commercialization in a second, but before I forget, what was the reaction of the global fumed silicon manufacturer? What can you tell us about? You're smiling. What can you tell us about their reaction to you achieving this level of commercial grade?
They were happy, very, very happy. Now I think they're going to become more insistent on, seeing what are going to be the next step. And I think that the start of those discussions is oncoming now, is moving forward, which is perfect. But it's basically, as I said, it was sort of like binary. If you take a look at the graph that we presented, yes,
put that up. Bernard, why don't you put that graph up, because it was interesting that what you had said to me earlier.
It's okay. Even though the material we made fit the definition of fumed silica at test 4, even at test before, okay, from test 4, okay, the surface area, okay, and the impurities that we had in those material didn't make it a commercial material. It made it a material that fit the criteria of fumed silica. So once you did 28, then we were able to do some process improvement. We went up 57%. Then we did test 6, which we started phase 2, which we basically said was going to be focused on surface area concentration and then material quality improvement. And then we went to 136, which meant that we've finally made real commercial fumed silica. Okay, so we're within the commercial grade 190. We're within the commercial grade, partially in with the commercial grade 130. So it's starting to be fumed silica, and we know that with additional process improvement, which is completely normal, expected, we will get to the 150 and higher. Okay, so we said that our first goal was to replicate at pilot scale the results that we had at lab scale, which is what we're starting to do now. So now we can at lab scale we did 153, okay, material. That's the material that really got the large company really excited, wanted to sign the LOI, allowed us to use their name at least on one or two press releases. And once we replicate this, that's really where we're moving forward. But for us, we want to do that, and we want to do more. We want to do the whole bandwidth of material that's demanded out there, because there's a market for all these things, and we think that our process is much more efficient to do.
One thing that strikes me about this graph, talking about commercialization, because even I in previous interviews said, but Bernard, you start the conversations. What's really striking about this graph is that at test 4 and 5, you're doing well, but you are nowhere now. Graphically, you can now see that this test 6, this is where you need to get to start having it. Because there have been some people who have said, why haven't you start commercial discussions? And maybe I might have even said a little bit of that in previous interviews. And I was wondering, when do you start? I know you want to get to 150, but does this now get you in position to look at the LOI partner and some other players under NDA and start saying, hey, let's start having this discussion now? Are you now at that realm where you can start having those discussions?
We're at that realm where I want to have start to have those conversations. If it's not with a partner with LOI, if he wants to be, more than us reaching 150, that's fine. But there are many other that have shown interest, and we can present our results. Our results are solid. Our material is solid. We've demonstrated the process work. We set out, as I said, we made some pretty bold claims. Okay? Bold claim is we were going to change how fumed silica is being made. Right? What this result says is we have accomplished this. Right? Now, is it going to be tomorrow, in a week, the people wake up to the reality that, we have a better process like Netflix had, which is a better way of distributing movie than Blockbuster? Okay? But you cannot remove the fact that we've made it. Right? We're a small company. We basically have limited resources, and we managed to do the impossible, which is demonstrate at pilot scale, okay, that we can replicate what we did at lab scale. How many companies failed just doing what we've done?
The Canadian small cap world is littered with companies who had all this hype and all this, and just completely flopped at pilot, couldn't get beyond the lab, and everything just crashed because they tried to do it all themselves. But let's not get into the details of, but that's been the history of the Canadian small cap world, and now you've been able to do it at pilot. What would you be looking for, Bernard, in your perfect scenario? And I'm not gonna ask you to give numbers, but you're talking to George Calm Fumed Silica, okay? I'm a big producer out of Greece or something like that. And you want to do a deal with me for the Mediterranean, whatever. What's the kind of structure of a deal are you looking for? Obviously, you look for some kind of an offtake, but what are you looking for with it, if anything? What would you be looking for in your ideal situation?
If you want to start entering the fumed silica train that we've sort of created, we've paid a lot of sweat and gut and tears. HPQ shareholders have paid that to get us here. So there's going to have to be some reward to start coming into it. How we structure it, we'll get that moving, and then basically allow us to design a pathways to going to the next step, which is scaling this up by another 20 times, okay, which is 1,000 ton per year plant. And then once we got the first plant done and build, then we can replicate and go after the market, which is massive. So, what is it going to be? I think it's going to be a mix and match of funding commitment, of offtake agreement, probably some a signing bonus. Like a hockey player, you're probably going to get a signing bonus. That would be the ultimate things that we're looking for. And the beauty of it is, the LOI being non-binding and non-exclusive, it gives us room to negotiate. So it's really up to the other parties to decide at what speed they want to move. But But at this moment, until we had those results and we could publish them, okay, it was
You didn't
very
really have any
difficult.
leverage.
Well, we had leverage of what we did at pilot scale, but we sort of milked that to the maximum at lab scale, right? We what we did at lab scale got a major company to sign an LOI, okay, and that transaction basically propelled the share prices of HPQ, okay, and the market capitalization doubled it, okay. That's what it did. Now here we are a year later, okay, and at that time we only had that. Here we are a year later, and we're now validating at pilot scale that what we've done at lab scale we can replicate, okay, and we still don't have the same market cap. There's something there. There's an opportunity out there for somebody to come in. Some investors are telling me it might be an opportunity for people that want to try to get us out for cheap because it's such a big opportunity. That's not our goal. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that shareholders get their fair reward into this. I
Are
am a
you
large
concerned
shareholder in
about
the
that?
company.
Like I've kind of said that in the past. How do you protect the company and all that? But I would think, listen, if I'm a GFSM,
Mhm.
I might be thinking that right now. I might
Yeah,
be
but
thinking, hey, how do I go in there and make a friendly, a hostile takeover bid or something like that? What do you do in that? What do you do in that situation? Or how do you protect your shareholders to make sure? Because Liz, I've always said this my entire life in business, wherever there's big money, big sharks are circling. They're not your friend. And if a
Mhm.
big shark can steal your meat, they're going to take it and they don't care if the minnow starves. They're big and they'll take it. So
Mhm.
what do you got any plans for protecting against that just in case?
Well, we're going to be starting to discuss what we do. Do we need to design and protect your shareholder, right? But it's very important for people to realize that even though HPQ looks like it's only a retail story, okay, we do have a very large institutional shareholder into HPQ, which is the Quebec government through Investissement Quebec, which own 8%, which I find funny that people completely forget this. We're based in Quebec, so we can, we will have that as a leverage in negotiation. Whomever wants to do a deal will have to negotiate through Investissement Quebec. So that gives us a bit of a protection into it. And I think it's something that people forget. People forget that we do have a large institutional investor in HPQ. And it's going to be very interested with those results and all the other things that we're doing. So I'm just saying out there, we're going to do the maximum way of doing this is not basically, being the only one in the beach in there and, flooding blood and letting all the sharks come. What we got to have to do is basically, put our little, dancing shoes and go meet the other people, probably like, companies that are maybe fourth and five in the size of fume silica market that may see this as an opportunity to take a leadership position. Okay.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah,
But
that makes a lot of sense.
but I couldn't go do that and present them to them. Okay, if I went to them 3 weeks ago, okay, and says we've done this at lab scale, we're doing pilot scale, and then they're gonna ask me what's the best you did, 44 square, surface area. They would have laughed if that would go out. Now, 136, okay, this is serious. You guys already doing 153. You're going the right path. Massive improvement. Okay, let's start talking. Okay.
So safe to
Uh,
assume you're going to ratchet that up, like you're going to
mhm,
start getting
yeah.
the auction going here, start getting start stirring the pot.
That's the goal of stirring the pot. And we already had some fielders. Okay. I have one fielder from a group in Asia, non-Chinese Asian group that I have a person that can have a very strong contact. And that same person has also opened discussion with another non-Asian, non-Chinese Asian company, which is, even just signing an NDA with those size of company takes time, and it looks like we're close to signing an NDA with them to start sending them material. Perfect timing, if you think about it. So, it's the goal for us is now um, we're now going to be starting. How are we going to monetize this? How are we going to move this forward? How are we going to capitalize on the opportunity this represents as we continue to make a high value product?
Is I always ask you this, and I know the press release went out just this morning. But if you're like me, you might have started sending out last night to interested parties after the market close or something. Is it too early for me to ask? Is the phone ringing?
Yeah, it's
Is
too early.
number two,
It's too
number
early.
three, number four, number five, number six saying, "Hey,
Oh,
Bernard,
George,
you
we're
know,
we're already in this discussion with number one, number two, number three. Okay,
okay,
we're in preliminary discussion with probably number five, and we're in discussion with number six, and we're in discussion with somebody who wants to enter the market. There's a limited field of fumed silica manufacture, but what's going to become more interesting is that because of the size and the scale of our project, there might be companies, okay, that use fumed silica, use 500 to 1,000 ton per year fumed silica, that may want to go vertical integration to control more of their costs, because some of these groups sometimes have their
yeah,
own quartz,
yeah,
those type of areas. So the field of people we can talk to has now increased. So
right,
that's
yeah."
the
You
point.
you
So,
can
but
even go to end users. You can even go to end users. Okay, so the phone, I'm gonna say is. By the way, if you need to take down the share screen because we're not looking at that anymore,
okay.
you can go ahead and do that. Um, or I had a question before I want to get onto this, and we kind of got we dove into that. But I'm glad to hear that's what you're doing. I like that strategy because usually you watch, I watch enough business documentaries where it's number three or four or five that jump on something because they need to do something to get, like the Green Bay Packers did with the Dallas Cowboys. They took Micah Parsons and signed expensive free agency agreement with him. You probably don't know what that means, but most people watching will know what it means because they're trying to jump into Super Bowl contention, and the great asset came on board, and they went and paid for it. They went and paid top dollar for it. So I like the fact that you're talking with 2 through 7.
Yeah,
There's a couple guys not there, but I think that's
and
fantastic. Ratchet that up, baby.
and people have to remember that the number one guy, okay, number one goal is protecting his position and being number one. He didn't become number one by, going trying 1,000 things. He stays very focused. So he has a built-in interest at defending his investment. Okay. Number two, number three guys that wants to enter the industry might be willing to go say, okay, let's move forward. Because I know the discussion that we were having with the number one guy was mostly, well, our technology could be good to meet the growth of the demand of the industry, which is significant. 16,000 ton per year, I think is what's growing. So they might see us more as a beginning, as a way of filling the need for the expansion of the market. While a number three, number four might be saying, well, I got a way to basically take market share from number one, number two.
Right, right.
But I couldn't start this until we had the result that we just published, because until then, I was nothing else than another, okay, junior company with a great conceptual idea.
Plot
That's
MC
what.
60 on Agoracom. That was basically your question because you posted a fantastic question to Agoracom, and we just kind of tackled it in many different. But yeah, that was great, Bernard.
Mhm,
Uh that's fantastic. Question for you.
mhm,
Going back to the technicalities of the next step, because you do want to get there.
mhm.
What does 150 and 200 look like? Getting to 150 and 200 meter square per gram or whatever that is, in sizing. How big of a challenge do you see that? And I know you made note of it in the press release that you don't think it'll be too difficult. You can't guarantee it, but what does that look like? Because then that's holy grail territory, right? Once you're there, you're completely holy grail territory, I'm assuming.
To go from here to commercial scale, okay? To go from here to commercial scale, the next thing, okay, is about the same step as we've done here. So what we've done here was 57% increases. So if you do a
From
57%
four to
increase,
from 28 to 44.
28 to 44. Okay. This was a 3-time fold. So we're not looking at replicating the 3-time fold. We're trying to replicate it this jump to make it above. So if that puts that in perspective, okay, the scale and the scope of what we're doing, it's not replicating. We don't need to re-replicate this massive step forward. We just need replicate to do these type of incremental step forwards to move there. So visually, people have to understand it. We don't need to do 3 times this type of success to reach our goal. I think I made the math. We would be at 213 if we did that. So, yeah. It's like
Devil's advocate. Sometimes though, the last 10%, someone trying to lose weight or someone trying to win a championship, sometimes that last 10-15% is harder than the entire step before that. Is that the case here, or is this more linear? That it's not necessarily a case of getting the last 10-15% is super difficult? Because I don't know. It might be, wow, this is really going to test our abilities to get out this last 15-20% improvement, 10-15-20% improvement, 30-40% improvement.
As I go back to here, okay, this is just replicating this, which was done under relatively difficult conditions, and then pushing it up there. So I don't foresee it as being overly difficult, but it's R&D. But the fact is, we already have a commercial material. We already have something very, very good. We're the only one that can offer this type of product, do it environmentally friendly. It's the beauty of it is that when you analyze our material, okay, we're the only one that have a material that has this level of pH because of our process, which means it's difficult. You cannot be reproduced other than using our process. So we do have a lot of advantages. This is what we're going to be moving and pushing forward.
Is there a big risk or hurdle that you're kind of worried about? I mean, listen, we always say this is always standard execution. You got to get something. But is there anything big that might keep you up at night for this last hurdle, or does it seem pretty surmountable to you?
As I said in the press release, I don't think that people realize the number of hurdles we've already reached. Okay. And that's the reason why I cut the press release in 2. Okay. If you think about it, we could have done those results and produced this on small, shitty amount of quality of material, which basically meant the system wasn't economical. On the 20th of August, that's why I went out and I talked more about those gains, the speed up of gain of process, the yield we were getting, the amount of material we produce. Okay. So that we could just focus on, we could have gotten those results at just a small quantity of material, and then it could be great. No, you have to combine it with the other results. We replicated making massive quantity of material in the backsheet. People have to remember, it took us over 62 batches of complete different tests of 30, okay, to reach what we've sent to the large company that liked it, all right? And every one of them, I think we never produced more than 100 grams per test. I think this time we produced 10 kilograms, okay?
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. You guys have done it right. That's for sure. Because you could take shortcuts and corners, and you did it right.
People would like us to take shortcut, but in this case, you can't really take shortcut because it will show. It will show because this material is analyzed, and it's not done in a vacuum. It's not HPQ saying these are great results, and then we send them to somebody else. Well, they're not really great results. No, we've already got the reply from the other one. We're pretty certain because if we look at our results and what we did at lab scale, if we'd have done our independent results, probably would have gotten better results. But we're the only test.
No, you are waiting for your independent results as well. When do those come out? Because you did say in your last press release
that could be that could be 2-3 weeks. It could be that's the main advantage of having them is we get them faster. Okay.
Yeah. Last question for you. Due diligence in anything like this, sooner or later, someone wants to eyeball all this. So is it safe to assume that you might start having different companies from around the world at some point flying in for meetings, flying in to see it? I mean, we all watch business movies where people show up and they want to see something in action. I got to presume for something. Why are you smiling like that? Okay, I've hit a nerve. But sooner or later, I know business. If I'm George, at some point, I say, "Hey guys, this is great. All right, when can I come and see this baby in action now so I can eyeball? Because everyone says I want to eyeball this. That's a common term in business.
Mhm.
When do people start flying in to eyeball this, or maybe they don't? Maybe the way this works is this independent validation means people don't need to. I would think they still
No.
do, but can you comment on that, or does your smile tell me everything I need to know?
Well, let's just say that there's always I have to be cautious about what I say here. Some of the information I have is through confidential discussion I have with people I interact with. But to put it mildly, the
I'm
parties
careful. I don't
will
want to get you in trouble at this
no, no, no.
stage.
I'm very careful. The parties that are interested will want at one point to come and see the machine, at least see the material being produced outside. On
Yeah.
our side, what we're trying to do is protect the IP, the savoir-faire, and all those technology into it. But as we get closer as we get closer to money being put on the table, that will be part of the discussions.
Yeah, like I gotta tell you, the way I would do it, if I was in your position, I'd say, okay, George Fumed Silica, you want to come in from Greece and see this? Um, if my machine, while you're there, produces, creates it, you watch it, produces the powder, you are locked into our deal. You can't walk away from watching it all and then say, I'll get back to you. So it's called a condition subsequent agreement, where you're saying,
Mhm.
put your X million dollars on the table and you come in, and if it works, the deal is a done deal. I'm just throwing
Mhm.
out some, and I shouldn't be telling your business, but hey, I like to, the guys, our friends will say, there goes George talking again, right? But buddy, this is fantastic. I don't know what else I can ask you. Is there anything without getting you in trouble or like that? But this seems like a fantastic day. And that
Mhm.
graph that you put up, I think, tells the biggest story. And I got to tell you, that educated me a lot, because there have been times I said, when do you start talking? When do you start talking? Clearly, it was premature at 22 and 44, or whatever those numbers were in test
Yeah, those
four
are
and
the
five.
numbers.
And now it seems like you're able to call up George Fume Silicon, and say, hey, George, let's put your money where your mouth is. So last words to you, my friend, for all your shareholders and all the loyals and everyone who's believed in you up until now. What's your last words to them for now, until we hopefully see you again soon?
Um, you know, I understand the frustration about the time it took us to get here, but we did get here. Okay. And we're now going to go the next phase of validating this moving forward. This is a massive demonstration that we set out to do this, and we're doing it. So, don't listen to people saying nothing has been done. That's not true. Nobody so far in the fume silica business has developed a process from quartz going directly to fume silica, which reached those level, which is a commercial type material. So, if it's not today, tomorrow, if the share prices doesn't move today or tomorrow, that doesn't mean that this technological breakthrough isn't existing. It's just that people are still amazed by the results, and it's going to take a little bit of time in me going out and talking more about it.
Okay. And by the way, end of meeting note. Earlier, you said you were talking to a couple of fielders. That's another Bernieism, because I think you're trying to say, I spoke to a couple of feelers. But I love the Bernieisms, and your shareholders love it too. All your friends love that stuff. Congratulations, my friend. And thanks for being on. By the way, Bernard was on Agoracom last couple of nights, or last night, whatever it was,
Last
and
night, yeah.
last night, and
I'll,
I'm presuming you're going to be on there a lot more now, given everyone's back on vacation, and now,
mm,
voila, you're at this point on
yeah,
the
but
fume
people have to
silica
realize
side.
that my answers will have to be some types of general line, but you know, it's better to go on Agoracom where you at least know that, if you get an official answer, you'll get an answer from the company. We're probably just going to revert back to the press release and getting things moving. And, we won't stand for the nitty-gritty BS that sometimes goes on.
Yeah, but I will allow you to make jokes about me. So if somebody wants to come on, make jokes about me, that's open season, no problem. And by the way, what really blows me away is we're talking about this, and we're not going to talk anymore about But the crazy thing is, if this alone was all you had, it'd be awesome. But we still got the battery, we still got hydrogen. It's unbelievable. Hydrogen on demand, so it's unbelievable how things are coming together. And I think I speak on behalf of everybody, Bernard, where we say thanks for getting us to this point. Still not over the finish line. We know there's some last steps to make, but you're getting us there. I think a lot of people can see it potentially. And good luck going forward, my friend. And I hope you give me a call tomorrow morning or Monday morning at 7 o'clock and say, George, we just put out news. Let's go. I can't wait for the next one. But until then, thank you, Bernard. Appreciate it, my man. And thank the whole team for us.
Will do.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed it. Get to Agoracom. Like I've said, as the company grows and starts and keeps making more milestones, more investors will be looking to participate in discussion, and we don't want them to land on FUD-filled platforms. We want them to land on the places where the discussion is real and then quality over quantity. So thanks for your engagement at Agoracom. For those of you who have increased it, for those of you who have hopped over, keep doing it, and have a great day. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
See you next time.
Hey, small cap fam. I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.